Welcome into the Bluegrass Burnouts YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking about power rankings for NASCAR after week seven,
Week six.
six. Right? I think I said seven the past two videos, but
Hey, it's
week
getting to that
six,
point where it's a little difficult to remember.
it is. Speaking of difficult, we said last week, Cody, we jinked ourselves. We said it's going to be the top 10. It's going to be a somewhat different combination, maybe not the exact top 10, but now we are looking at it here week six, and
We're
this is
getting
probably the
there.
hardest week that I've had. I mean, we were talking
I would
about it
agree
before. It's tough.
completely.
It's tough because you want to pick, especially the bottom five are the ones that are rough. The top five are pretty easy.
Pretty
Just kind of
solid
depends
there.
on what you are, categorizing things on. But the top 11 guys are so close and so many different, finishes and stage points and all this different stuff that it's been tough for me to choose. So we'll go ahead and get into it. At my number 10, I have Mr. William Byron sitting sixth in points. The big thing with Byron that sticks out to me, Cody, is the guy does have 40 stage point wins, which for somebody outside of the top five, he has a decent amount. He's got more than Denny and Chase, who are sitting above him in the standings. He is pretty close to Chase points wise, but the big thing that's kind of sticking out to me with Byron is he's got one top five and three top tens. We've talked about it. The difference between a top five and a top 10 is very different, or is very minimal. However, compared to some of these guys that I have above him, he just hasn't looked as good this year, which is weird to say for the 24 team. Weird to say just for a Hendricks car in general. But, it hasn't been the best year so far. Vegas and Phoenix, two tracks that he looks really good at all the time. He looked great at. Darlington, he had an okay race. The 500 in Atlanta, it's always crazy. And he didn't look too terrible at Coda either, but he just hasn't really impressed. He's not up to the standard that when I think the 24 team Hendricks, William Byron, they just haven't had the best year. And that's pretty much every Chevy in general. That's not just a him thing. But I think there's a couple guys who've looked better. That's why I got him at 10.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. My 10, I've got Christopher Bell, and I can keep this short and sweet. He just didn't have the week this week. He was at my 7. I picked him for the pick'ems. He's been on a hot streak, running really well, really close to getting that win, just didn't get it. And this week they were nothing. Didn't have it, was running. I don't even know if he got inside the top 10 apart from pit cycle. And I really can't say anything positive about this week for the 20 team. It was just a bad week. So dropped him a bunch of spots. All of the guys that I had ahead of him now, even if they are below him in points, just had a better week this week. And, obviously I'm not like jumping guys from like 15 to 8 or anything like that, but like these guys were all very close, and Bell just had such an atrocious week. It would be different if it was like, if he was in an accident that kind of led to something, but just all weekend didn't have the speed. I'm sure that they'll be able to fix it, but not what I was looking to see out of this 20 team. I've got him at the 10.
Yeah, my number 9, a guy that I really struggled to put him somewhere, but I felt like he deserved it. And unfortunately, I don't have Brad K in my top 10 this week. Honorable mention to Brad K. This is the only guy outside of the top 10 for me. And the main reason why I have him in over Brad K is because Mr. Ty Gibbs has one more top 5, one more top 10. Now, again, those are minimal here. But the big thing for me, comparing Gibbs and Keselowski, was the stage points. They have the exact same amount of stage points. Ty does have less points, but again, the finishes. That's why I'm putting him here at 9. The thing about Ty, though, man, is he's got 29. Besides Brad K, the next closest person to him is Denny with 31. But then you also got some guys that are outside of the top 15. You got Joey with 31. You got Cindric with 36. So, he's putting himself in positions to win the races. He's just not doing good early race, it seems like. And that's why he's not having these, stage points. But, he's got a little bit better than Brad. That's why, it finishes than Brad. That's why I put him at 9.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean there. It's kind of complicated. Like you said, it's just very difficult, but everyone's got their own way of doing it. My 9, I do have Brad K. And a lot of it is just, had an incredible weekend.
Yeah,
Incredible weekend.
fantastic
He was
weekend.
already just on the outside of my 10, and going out and having the performance that they did really just solidified that. And the only reason this was really a
Pained me
fight
not to put him on
between
there.
him and Busher here. I was one of those two was getting the spot, and we went with Brad simply because he had the higher finish, had the more dominance this week, and they're so close in points that I really didn't feel like I could say, oh, well, he's ahead of him. Like, it's not really that big of a difference. At the end of the day, Brad K had the week, and Busher got involved in that accident late, had some contact with Reddick. I know that kind of messed up his finish a little bit, but, still had a great day, but Brad K gets the nod from me.
My number 8, Cody, I'm going with the man sitting in 10th in points, and that's Kyle Larson. Larson's sitting at, with the 6 races ran, he's sitting with 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s. Now, the thing with Larson is you always got to talk about this. He's not the best on super speedways, and he is not the best on road courses. And the thing is, we've had 3 other races besides that, and he's got 3 top 10s and a top 5.
Yeah.
So, his wheelhouse, he's really good. It's always rough for Larson starting the year because we are at some tracks that he does not do good at. But he's starting to pick it up. You're starting to see him, as we're getting into these mile and a halves, 2 miles, whatever we're getting into, quarter of a mile, we're going to short track next week, which he's, typically usually really good at the short tracks. So we'll see how he does. But I'm not going to fault him for the first 3 races of the year being at tracks that he historically is not good at. While on the other end, the next 3 races, he does pretty dang well. You know what I mean? It's just that those
Yeah.
first couple weeks are affecting his points. That's why I got him at 8. Like I said, Chevy overall has not had that good of a year. They are obviously the weakest of the 3 manufacturers in the Cup Series. That's without a doubt. The really only good race they've really looked good in was Vegas, and that's one of their best tracks. That is one of their drivers' best tracks. Chevy thrives there, but disappointing year for Chevy so far. But I got him at the 8 just because I needed to give him that nod, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. My 8, I've got Byron. And kind of like you mentioned, off to a little bit of a slow start. We've talked about Hendrick a lot this year, but a guy who we've still seen have some speed, being able to compete, and went out this week and had another good run. But most of all, he's sitting at 6th in points. Only 3 top 10s. He has the DNF in there. Only 1 top 5, which we're kind of used to seeing more from him at this point. But I still think they're having a good year. I think the consistency has been there. Not definitely not from a what we expect from them standpoint, but I don't think they've been horrible.
Yeah,
Still lots of room for improvement for this team. I think this week is going to be the big test for them. If they can go out and have a good week this upcoming week at Martinsville, they'll be fine. Just need to see that success happen first. So I've got him at the 8.
yeah, yeah. Keep in mind he won the last Martinsville race to
Yep.
put him into the championship 4, so could be a good opportunity for him.
Not to
Looking
spoil
at
my pick.
what?
I said not to spoil my pick.
No, Lord, that was going to be my pick. You suck. Anyways,
Maybe you should
look
be in last, sucker.
All right, all right. Anyways, number 7, dude, my 7th and my 6th spot were so tough for me to pick here. But I went with Bell at my number 7, or excuse me, at my number 7. The main reason why I went with him at the number 7 spot is because he has less points than the guy that I have at the 7 spot. I think they both have done very well this year. If you're going off of our statistics that we use, like the top 10s, the top 5s, everything like that, you are he is better than the guy that I have above him that's not in my top 5, but I just feel like the other guys looked a little bit better. The other thing about Bell, he also does have a DNF in there. But he's looked strong this year. Bell is one of those guys that I feel like a lot of folks forget about until you see him, in 10th, 11th place with about 50 to go. And you're like, oh, there's Christopher Bell. And then it's blink 5 laps later. It's like, oh, he's running 3rd now somehow. But it was so hard for me. The 9 and the 10 spot and the 6 and the 7 spot were the toughest spots for me this week. But I put Bell at my number 7 spot.
Yeah, no, totally fair. My seven, I've got Larson, and you kind of already said all of it. We've talked about it with Byron as well. Not the season we'd expect, but I've over these past couple of weeks, we've really started to see the speed pick up in the 5 car. Had some really great runs. Unfortunately, this week had the pitting error that really prevented him from having a good finish. Really messed him up, but had a good week still. So I'm not going to punish him too much for that when it comes to standings wise. And that was something that I mentioned with Bell as well. Bell, I just kind of felt, he didn't have it. Whereas with Larson, I feel like he had it. They just made a mistake and it was their downfall. But yeah, I think he's a guy that obviously has, again, room for improvement, but a guy that I have a lot of confidence will pick it up probably in these next couple weeks. So got Larson at the 7.
Yeah, I like that, Cody. I do like that. I don't disagree with him being there. My number 6, I got Chris Buescher. This was such a tough choice for me, dude. Like, I've had such a hard time deciding who to put where between these bottom 5 guys, and they're not bottom, bottom 5 in the power rankings. But I got Chris Buescher there. I feel like Buescher's looked better. He hasn't necessarily had the finishes. He does have 3 top 10s. He's looked good. He's looked strong this year. Those Fords have looked great. He had a good week this week. And one thing, just again, like I said with Bell, he just has a little bit more points than him. That's the
Yeah.
only reason why I gave him the nod. The
Yeah,
finishes
man.
might not be there, but this is my power ranking. Like I say at the end of this, you're not my dad. You can't tell me what to do. So if I want to put him here, I'm gonna put him here.
Yes,
But
sir.
I mean, all these guys are just this close to each other in my eyes,
Very
and
much.
these
Very much.
the bottom 5 were so tough for me to pick. So I kind of went with my heart. I went with, okay, I think he's looked better. This, and that. It might contradict some other stuff, but I want to put him at the 6, so I'm putting him at the 6.
Yeah. And this is the 6th spot, one where I went very interesting. I've got Gibbs, and I'll keep this short and sweet. He may not have had a great start to the year. He's sitting 11th in points right now. But these past 3 weeks, with even 4 weeks, you could throw Coda in there. I've seen a lot that I like from this 54 team. And this is a team that I already believe is on the rise, a team that could absolutely get a win, especially with how the Toyotas are running. But I have seen so much speed out of this 54 car. I've seen a lot of consistent driving out of this 54 car, and they've sold me with how they're driving so far this year, how the team is operating. I think this could be their year. I got the 54 at 6.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. One thing I really didn't get to mention with Gibbs is this is the most impressive we've seen out of Ty Gibbs, and
Absolutely.
not saying that
Consistency wise.
not saying in the past he hasn't looked good, because in lower series he's looked great. Did he kind of get the jump a little bit too early because of nepotism?
Eh,
Probably, probably. You
but
know,
at least he's like actually good.
yes, yes. At least we don't have like a situation that you get in some other series where the guy's dad is the owner of a team, or the guy's dad owns stuff, and maybe he's the title sponsor, or he
Looking
owns
at
a lot
you,
of.
Lance.
I'm looking at whatever his name was that got kicked out, the Russian dude. I'm looking at that guy. What was his name? Who cares?
I'm looking at Lance. I'm
Nikita
looking.
Mazepin. That's who it was.
Oh, I'm looking
That's who I'm
right at
thinking of.
Lance Stroll.
I mean, I'm also thinking of Lance Stroll. But the other thing about Lance Stroll is Lance Stroll isn't the best, but he also at least had some success in lower levels. But the other thing is also his dad owned the team, and they paid for parts, and they had a sim and all this other bullshit. But okay, we'll just go in to get into my top 5. Cody, I think we might have the same top 5 as we have.
It's
We've had very
possible.
similar ones. I went with Chase Elliott at the 5. Of the top 5 drivers, has looked very impressive so far this year. He hasn't necessarily gotten that win yet, but he's got 2 top 5s. He has got 3 top 10s. He is sitting there 131 points behind Tyler Reddick, who's just insane this year. And let's go on and let's see who your guy is at number 5.
My five, I have Chase Elliott, and man, it's kind of weird. He's sitting at fifth in points, but I don't feel like I've seen a lot from him
Exactly.
apart from, apart from the 500 and being there at the top. It's just really, I really don't even know how to describe it. Because at the end of the day, he's clearly having a great season. You can't be fifth in points without having a good run. But he's kind of flying under the radar, and that's why I've got him in fifth out of the top five here. Yeah, I feel like at Darlington as well, another race where we didn't totally see a whole lot out of him. Qualified well, qualified third, but ends up 15th. And even being at the race, I don't think we saw a whole lot from him. So I he's having the year. I just want to see more out of him to have him possibly climb up these rankings. But he's a guy for me who is kind of just on a slope, on a downhill slope right now, and not in a bad way. Going from 4 to 5 isn't like oh my gosh, but this is just kind of where he's at for me right now. He's flying under the radar, but he's doing a damn good job at it. He's at the 5.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally get that. Totally get that. My number 4, and I strictly only put him here because he does not have a win, and that is Bubba Wallace. Bubba's looked great this year. Not the best weekend this year. That's why I put him at 4. But great. He's going to get a win eventually. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Absolutely. And I've got him in the same spot for the same reason. Doesn't have the win, and just didn't have the week this week, unfortunately, like I said, with the incident and all that fun stuff. But just didn't have the week he needed to stay above the people ahead of him. Still think he has the speed and still think he has a great chance to, get a win or maybe even, 2 or 3 this season. But just didn't have the week this week. He just drops a couple spots for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So my number 3, Denny Hamlin. Again, same story, kind of not the best week, but has looked good so far this year. Love that he got a win this year. A little bit further behind in points, too, behind the number 2 guy who also has a win, but that's why I got him at number 3.
And at my 3, I have Blaney.
Really?
I do.
Interesting.
And my only reasoning for this is because I don't think overall Blaney has had the best year.
That's fair. That's very
better
fair.
than Hamlin, at least.
That's
Not
very
to,
fair.
Not to
That's
spoil
very fair.
it. If you couldn't tell who was at 2, I just think that Hamlin has had the better year, and I love Blaney. Obviously he's got the win. He's sitting there in points. But if you were to ask me today who's having the better season, I would put Hamlin over Blaney. And that is really the end of it. So at my 2, I've got Denny Hamlin. He's off to a great start. We didn't see a lot out of him in those first couple weeks, and then wasted no time picking it right back up. Goes out, gets a win, and we're just kind of living in a Toyota's world right now.
We pretty much
But
are. We pretty much are. But
yeah, that. Go
we
ahead.
got
Go
one
ahead.
blue oval though, sitting in that top 5, sitting in that top
Yep.
5 to interrupt
Absolutely.
it. And that's Ryan Blaney. That's who I got at my 2. I feel like you already said everything, Cody.
Yeah.
Only reason why I put him there, he's got one more top 10 than Denny. That's why I got him up there above him. Go on
Yeah,
ahead if you
totally
want to say
fair.
anything else about Denny, because we all know who number 1 is.
No, sir. Let's jump into it. Tyler Reddick. There's literally, we've said everything we can say. Let's just leave it at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 wins for the
In
45
6
team.
races.
6 races. We've seen it done before, but I don't think we've ever seen it done before by a person who won 0 races the season before.
Yeah.
This has been absolutely insane, and some people will come in with the conspiracy theories. Oh, they gave him 100 extra horsepower. Hell, I'll joke about it, but there are some people that might genuinely believe that.
There
If
probably
you
are.
think that Tyler Reddick couldn't do this with his own talent, you haven't been watching Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, I agree.
This man is an incredible race car driver. We've seen him show it week in, week out, season in, season out, team in, team out. This man can drive a race car. And just because he maybe didn't get as lucky last season, didn't have a race where they put it all together, does not mean that he cannot do this, and they haven't earned every bit of this. This 45 team is on a roll. They're on a streak, and good luck stopping them. Good luck stopping them. And to be totally honest, good luck. 45 team, number one, baby.
Yeah, like we always say, you're not my dad. You can't tell me what to do. But we'd love to hear what you guys think of our lists. Feel free
Always.
to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let us know how we did below. We will see you guys later. Thank you for watching. God bless you all, and we'll see you next time.